Alright you guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to take a look at all of the new updates coming to jump points. This is a really exciting update, and it makes a lot of sense for CAG to go over all of this information because they plan on releasing 4.0 this year with Pyro. And this is something that players in Evo Cardi have already tested. There are players who have already gone through the jump point, and there are a lot of questions that the community have around jump points, things like camping, things like different size ships going through jump points, updates to the lore around jump points, their visuals. I think that this is a much needed video, and I'm excited to learn what's happening with jump points moving forward. So without further ado, let's get in this video and see what CAG has updated us with.
There are two different jump point experiences, permanent and transient.
Okay.
The permanent jump points are the ones that are the most stable, and they are always available for the player to travel through.
It's the well-trafficked, well-traveled route that most people will go through.
Which you find on the star map, the ones that you would like, say, transition from Stanton to Pyro, Pyro to Stanton.
Okay, so that is huge. Okay. The permanent jump points are basically all of the jump points that are on the jump point map, the map that we have of the entire Star Citizen universe. Again, this is the locations on the map, like the Stanton to Terra jump point, the Stanton to Pyro jump point. These marked jump points on the map, these are the permanent jump points.
Since they're stable and generally larger and easier to travel, there are infrastructure built up around them to support the commerce that goes through them on a regular basis.
And again, you can see all of this infrastructure in the game right now. CIG kind of surprised us with it a couple of patches ago, and a lot of the player base was really excited that they were able to finally add these jump point locations into the game. They are pretty cool. You can go to these locations and trade with them. They are basically like Lagrange points or other stations in the game. So there is a bit of gameplay surrounded with these stations, things to do there.
So we made a creative decision to remove the circular gates that we were doing in some of the concept art before. It just didn't match the reality of how we wanted to set these up in the world. They're supposed to be naturally occurring. And if you have like this infrastructure around it making this circular jump gate, then that's not showing like how it actually functions in the world.
Okay, so this is another thing that I think makes a lot of sense. The way that jump points work in Star Citizen is that they are not created by humans, by technology. They are naturally occurring phenomenon. Essentially, a jump point is a rift in space-time or whatever, kind of like a wormhole where space is folded or whatever. And so what happens is that you use your jump drive to essentially open up this tear in the fabric of space, and you can fly through it to a new star system. So it kind of makes sense that there isn't this big ring around the actual jump point itself. So I think again that makes sense. I know a lot of the player base really like the design of the ring. It's very cool concept art, but realistically I think this is more believable. This is a little bit more realistic, a little less science fantasy, a little bit more science fiction. So I do like that. Of course, there are going to be people who miss the old ring, and that it was very cool concept art, but at the end of the day, I like the tie into the lore to what these things actually are. And you know, I'm the type of player who really enjoys that added level of realism.
We've lost the sort of size restriction when it comes to permanent jump points. So
Okay.
the main jump points that lead from system to system will accept any size ship.
Okay, so that's also another big one. Okay, so one of the questions that I had around jump points a little while ago is with Xenothreat. You know, Xenothreat has visited Stanton many times now and for a long time, and the Idris has come through. But if you look on the star system map, all the star systems in the star system universe, the jump point between Stanton and Pyro is a medium jump point. So apparently CIG is not going with those jump point sizes anymore for the primary jump points that you're going to be interacting with. So these are the jump points like Stanton and Terra, Stanton and Magnus, of course, Stanton and Pyro. The main permanent jump points connecting two star systems, these jump points will not have ship size restrictions. And I think that makes a lot of sense. That way we can take our capital ships to other star systems without having to worry about that. And you're going to probably need these larger capital ships and these larger multi-crew ships to go through jump points because they have more quantum fuel and can actually travel around, well, whereas, you know, smaller ships will have a harder time doing that. So I think that change makes sense. And, you know, for gameplay reasons, you're going to need these larger jump points with capital ships getting added to the game.
Transient jump points are more ethereal.
First, you have to find them, and once you've found them, you don't know where they go.
We like to call in the narrative team the Swiss cheese approach to jump points, which are smaller access points to the main tunnel. Those will still be restricted by small, medium, and large. So basically, it opens up opportunities for smaller ships to kind of sneak their way through.
Now, that is a very cool design. So apparently, the way CIG is allowing for dynamic gameplay with these jump points is for the addition of transient jump points that are not the main permanent jump points that have locations on the map. And I think this is a very cool kind of compromise. I don't really want to call it a compromise because I think it's actually an improvement to be able to find new jump points. You know, the biggest issue, you know, with Star Citizen is that because the lore is so filled out, because there's so much, you know, planned content for the future. I mean, we still have, you know, 98 star systems that need to get added to the game, in theory, based on the lore. So that's so much content that's already baked into the game. What is there for the players to discover? What is there for the players to find and interact with? I think making, you know, different jump points open up around the star system that players can find and maybe share information about. Maybe you find a transient jump point and it, you know, it might last for another couple of hours or something like that, maybe another couple of days, and you sell that information to somebody. I think that could give a use case for those types of ships. And we're seeing the Terrapin here. The Terrapin, I think, is a great example because it's a scanning ship. Maybe you can find these types of jump points and navigate them. And that's going to be some very good gameplay for exploration. Okay, let's keep going.
A transient jump point may only be able to be used once. It may be a little bit more permanent, but you can never tell how long does it last once you find it.
Okay.
If people are looking to avoid scrutiny, we'll look for these sort of side routes to get into the jump point to bypass, you know, security or customs or stuff like that.
In 4.0,
So that's kind of interesting. Say to bypass security and customs. So that's not something that they've talked about much in the past, I don't believe. If there's going to be, you know, different checks in different star systems, I'm sure that in high security star systems like Terra, you know, if you have a crime stat, maybe, you know, you'll have police show up or something like that as soon as you come out of the jump point. Maybe you have to pay a fine to be able to enter. I don't know how much they're going to elaborate on customs or that type of gameplay, but I do think that's an interesting concept for, high-sec star systems like Terra.
First and only jump point will be the one linking Stanton to Pyro and Pyro to Stanton.
Okay.
Maybe the best way to share this design is simply to walk you through the whole thing. So we leave Lawville, we put it onto our star map, and we set our course for the Stanton to Pyro jump point. QT there. And then upon arrival, you will fly down to the gateway station that's located there, because you're going to want to make sure that you're stocked up for your trip into Pyro, because Pyro may well not have the things that you're used to in Stanton. You probably want to pick up some ammo, and you want to pick up some more fuel, probably some more fuses, and then
Okay, so some fuses here.
after that, undock, and then turn yourself to view the jump point.
The jump points will be visible from far distance. It probably will appear as like a small star kind of a thing that just like pulses and asks you to come near me.
You'll see like the massive whirlwind from the gravity pool that the jump point itself is creating, which is a gas cloud, and you'll see it in various different colors or forms. You can fly.
I think this looks really cool. I like the way that it looks. It looks very organic, very natural. Again, they're kind of moving away from a man-made look. This is, again, a natural phenomenon in space, an anomaly in space that you're going through. It's very cool. I think it looks good.
Towards where the jump point will be, and there is structures in Stanton that sort of lead you towards the jump point.
When you approach the jump point, what you'll hear is the general ambience of the whole area, whether that's the distant portal emitting energy.
I like the lightning. Again, the effects look very cool. I like the way this looks right now. I'm excited to actually be able to test this out myself.
Or violent clashes of thunder that is drawing the player into the central jump zone. And as we get closer, this will build up, and the player will feel like they're being drawn into something primordial.
With jump points, multiple players can take them at the same time, so it is probably likely that you will encounter other players waiting to make their jumps.
And you'll also see like the security and the turret infrastructure around it that's providing a safe experience on the permanent jump gates.
Okay, so again, that's one of those things that people wonder about these jump points. Again, campers, griefers, people doing that type of stuff. Now, in safe star systems, I believe these locations will be armistice zones, or have like a light armistice zone where turrets will defend the location. So if you're a bad player and you shoot other players, of course, at these locations, they'll be monitored. So you'll get a crime stat. The turrets will fire at you, that type of thing. But in star systems like Pyro, they won't really have that loss system to fall back on where you get a crime stat. So how they deal with players doing that, it might be a little bit more interesting. But again, it'll depend on the star system that you go to.
In order to perform your jump, the first thing you need to do is get closer to the jump point.
But you won't be able to go all the way up to it. Like when it's not active yet, it has a field around it that will push you away until you've attuned to the anomaly that allows you to go through.
That's another thing that Evocati was saying, is that they fly close to the jump point. If they're not, aligned or whatever, they kind of get bounced back really far. Now, that seems kind of, video gaming. I don't know how much of that they're actually going to keep in the final thing, but, maybe it's like a gravity field, I guess, that this jump point is emitting. I'm not entirely sure like how far back it'll throw you or anything like that. It's an interesting mechanic, I guess, to kind of keep people who are not queuing up away from the location. But you know, it's another one of those things that I guess CIG could kind of tweak a little bit. It's not really that critical, essentially.
You have to call ATC. The anomaly needs ATC to be able to allow you to enter.
When you're using a jump point, you're actually just an individual. So the ATC calls that you have to make are for you, and then the groups that you go in are designated by the ATC.
If you contact ATC at the same time, you can be put into the queue together, but there's no guarantee that you'll be in the same jump group.
If you want to jump with your friend,
Okay, so basically what they're saying here is that a bunch of ships line up in front of the anomaly, in front of the jump point, and if they call ATC together, the ATC will put them in a group together to jump together. I mean, that's not ideal, but I don't really have a problem with it. I think that should work just fine. It will allow, you know, realistically, when this first drops, a lot of people will want to go through the jump point together. So there'll probably just be a lot of players queued up there. And more likely, they'll just call ATC around the same time and be put in a group together. So I think that should work just fine. Again, this is more than likely tier 0 of jump points. I'm sure that they will, you know, add functionality in the future that allows parties to jump together. Like if you're in the same party, then more likely the party leader could contact ATC, and then everyone in that party can jump together as a group. It depends on if they will do that in the future, but I think that this, you know, again, I want to see them get it working and then hammer out the details a little bit later.
you need to make sure that you arrive together, and when you call ATC, you will be able to see how much space is in the group. So if you have friends and you want to jump together, you'll be able to know exactly how much room there is in that group. And if it's not enough,
but how many ships can jump at the same time? What's like the limit
for you, and you want to go with your friends later, then you can forfeit and you go again.
Can like 50 ships jump at the same time, or is it like limited to 5?
In the future, I definitely want to have some more quality of life features where you can get into queue at the ATC as a party, but currently our ATC does not support queuing as a party, so you'll...
Okay, so yeah, that's basically what I said, is that right now, like they want to be able to enable you to jump by being in a party, but that's not in this iteration. So yeah, again, that makes sense.
Just be doing it as an individual.
Once you are within range of it, you need to be changing over to nav mode. Your UI will...
Okay, so this is something that I did actually just see on Reddit, is that there is new MFDs. The power triangle has gone the way of the dodo bird, so to speak, and we now have power bars. I think these new MFDs look really clean. This is the new building blocks MFDs. So CIG has is getting rid of all of the legacy code and moving all of the UI to the building blocks code set. It's their internal tool in a part of Star Engine. And so this will kind of future-proof these MFDs so they can add and update and change them however they want to in the future. This is going to be another big and very good change. This is the Drake Corsair that we're looking at right now. I think this looks very Drake. You know, this looks like the kind of MFDs that Drake would have. Modern UI design looks very clean, easy to understand. Again, you have your weapons, your power, your shields, kind of, you know, weapons, power, shields, and of course it will still technically function like the power triangle, where you can key bind this, so you can do 100% weapons, 100% power, 100% shields, and then of course everything in between there. You can bind it on your flight stick. Of course, I have the power triangle bound on my flight stick. So I think that functionality will be the same, but it will just visually look different. And then, of course, we have the 2D radar here looking very good. The radar is always something that is kind of visually hard to see, especially during Xenothreat this year. I think CIG needs to adapt the UI so you can turn certain things off. Like, I want to be able to with a keybind turn off all UI elements that are not the ship that I'm currently targeting at. You know what I mean? Like in Xenothreat, there's just a bunch of icons all over the screen, and with a key press, I want to be able to turn all of the other icons off, but the ship that I'm currently targeting. And it's just like when you go, you know, from standard control mode into nav mode, there's just like a bunch of different icons all over your screen. And it would be good to be able to turn off all the icons you're not directly pointing at, or have a setting in the settings that allows you to say, okay, this is what I want to display. These are the things that I want on a keybind, because the UI, especially in these large fleet ship battles, it's crazy. You're just kind of looking at a million icons on the screen. So with this, that's just kind of like a little tangent that I went on with this kind of 2D radar. Hopefully they kind of simplified things. Just put a dot over here. It's a red dot. It's an enemy. It's a green dot. You know, it's a good guy kind of thing. You know, just clean it up a little bit. So it's not so kind of crazy all over the place. And that's kind of what they're doing here. Again, I know with the HUD, we have, you know, the HUD, the old one, the one we currently have, kind of basically takes up the entire view. And it seems like CIG really wants to move away from that and just make the HUD kind of in the area around the MFDs. I think that looks way cleaner. I think it obstructs a lot less, and looking out of the windshield of your ship is going to be a lot more immersive, in my opinion. So I like the new direction they're going in.
Will automatically change to the jump drive UI,
which will allow you to know if you're aligned, if you're tuned, if you can go in, if it's blocked. You have a visual input of the UI. The HUD is moving.
Okay, and you see the little radar, you know, pings going out. That's a cool animation there as well.
Is turning until you have a message notification that tells you, all right, you're aligned.
Yeah, the little radar waves.
If you look away, of course, that will trigger the cancellation of that alignment.
Okay, and so this one is Anvil. Okay. Again, it's kind of different. So every ship's kind of got their own themed MFDs going on. That's very cool.
If you move away from your position, you'll lose probably your position.
Okay, and then we have the Gladius here. And we did see a little bit of the Gladius's new HUD at CitizenCon because of Squadron 42. So again, I like the minimal HUD only around the MFDs. And these are good looking MFDs, easy to read. I'm excited for the future of this game, you guys. CIG is actually putting in the work.
In the queue, you'll have red markers that tells you, or you're on the wrong side, you have to move to that direction. You'll have also kind of like a landing strip where you have the light that tells you, oh, you have to go in through this area. So you'll have those rings that pulse and tell you you're correctly aligned.
So as soon as the ATC has gotten to your group and you're now able to use the jump gate, your jump drive will start attuning to the gate.
And once you have authorization and you have opened the wormhole, you'll have the tuning visual that's really similar to the aligning, but with tuning.
Okay, and so these are the Crusader MFDs again, looking pretty good, Messages
that tells you what you need to do. And once that's done, you'll have tuning access and you'll be ready to go inside.
Okay, activate jump point.
While your ship is attuning, you'll see rippling in the anomaly. And as soon as you are attuned, then you can fire a burst of quantum energy into the portal that will rip it open, and you'll have a gate in space that allows you to see the tunnel beyond.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that's cool. I think that's cool. Because you're doing something. Anytime you, as a player, can do something in the game to affect the game world, or there's any kind of gameplay associated with something that you're doing, I think that's cool. And a lot of people have kind of compared these jump points to a sort of interactive loading screen. And the more gameplay that CIG adds with these jump points, the more impactful they'll be. And it will be an entire event, an experience, not just, okay, you go up to the jump point, there's a cutscene, you end up in Pyro. No, it's you're aligning to the anomaly. You're attuning your ship. You're firing a burst of quantum energy, ripping open the jump point. You're manually flying through it. That's what CIG has said, is that you have to manually fly through these things. So there's gameplay. It's not just, well, kind of sort of gameplay. You know what I mean? It's not just you're sitting there and waiting for something to happen. If you fly up to these jump points and then you walk away to go microwave your food or get a drink or something like that, you're still going to be instantant. You have to play the game. You're in control is basically what's happening here. So I like that. You're doing something to make this happen, and it's going to make this more impactful. And that's what I want from this game. More immersion, more things for players to do. That's going to make this game more exciting.
And travel to your new star system.
When it opens, you'll hear the space around the jump point being ripped apart and everything being drawn into it. A really guttural, swirling sound of all the space around.
That looks awesome. I'm sorry, that looks awesome. I'm just being a space nerd right now, and everything I'm looking at looks awesome.
The jump point being dragged into this one singularity.
During this drawing process, the ships are drawn in automatically. You don't have to control anything. You don't have to do anything. There is, in fact, nothing you can do that would stop you being drawn in.
Okay.
So the plan right now is if there's any obstructions in front of you when you're trying to attune to the gate, that'll break your attunement.
Okay.
So if somebody gets in your way while you're trying to attune, your attunement will pause until that obstruction has gone away. However, if anybody gets too close to the jump gate and they're not attuned, then they're going to get pushed away, which should clear the area for anybody who's trying.
Okay, so yeah, that's what Evocati has basically been saying, is that if you're not attuned and you try to fly into the jump point or whatever, you kind of bounce out of it. I guess that's kind of like a deterrent to kind of keep away people from getting too close if they're not lining up or anything like that.
Trying to get through.
So for the people who want to block a jump point, we are actually considering our options as to how to prevent that from happening.
Okay. I think what they could do is kind of make a mechanic to where if you haven't called ATC and you're not aligning and you're kind of in the area for too long, they'll kind of like give you a ticket, so to say, kind of like, when you park up, you're downtown, you go to the meter runs out or whatever, you get a fine. So if you're just kind of loitering around blocking the jump point, you get a fine, and your ship gets impounded. But if you go up to the jump point and you contact ATC and you start aligning with the jump point within a reasonable amount of time, of course you don't get the fine, you don't get impounded. But if you're just there and you're not you know, you're there, but you're not trying to go to the jump point. You're just in the way, then you'll get a fine. But again, let me know what you guys think about this. I don't entirely know how CIG can solve this problem, but that's just kind of my 2 cents on the issue, is that, you know, kind of clean up the people who are just kind of loitering around the area trying to camp or whatever. Just be like, you're here, you're not going to the jump point, you get a fine, kind of thing.
When you cross the threshold, you'll hear an instantaneous whip of the ship being pulled in and the changing of atmosphere between deep space and this singularity that you're being dragged into.
Once you're in the tunnel, your ship will be flying at a set speed that's determined by the flow of energy through the tunnel.
You'll hear the space around you flying past you at a great pace, like a really long cosmic drain pipe.
And you don't have any control of how fast you're going. You'll speed up in the
What
straights.
does it say here? What you see here in the tunnel is an intermediate stage of visual development. Okay.
Slow down the corners to a certain degree, but you still have to navigate.
The tunnel itself.
Yeah, so this is what CIG has said in the past, is that you still have to control your ship in this tunnel. You can actually just, like, if you're not controlling your ship, you can actually fall out of this thing.
Is something else. It needs a lot of technical and graphical things that need to happen.
We've got flickering lights, some type of ethereal
I think it looks good. I think it's fine. I'm not too picky. I
type
think it's
of
good.
particle effect to show you type of the direction we're flowing. We also have fog effects, and this idea that you're always moving towards a strong, bright light in the distance.
Okay.
The idea we're going off so far is that we're working on the bending of light. You'll see impressions of the exterior, the location you've just come from, and also hints of the way you're going to. The walls of the tunnel have a curving the space-time around you, and eventually, as you travel through the tunnel, that distortion will move away from the initial system you started in and then blend slowly towards the new system you end up in.
Cool.
We can kind of do anything we want because it's an enclosed space, so we're doing things like, on the rendering side, we're taking the sunlight, which we don't normally need when you're in an enclosed space, and we're reusing the sunlight, all the tech that goes behind that with high-res shadow maps and these type of things and directional occlusion, and then reusing that to create a flickering, pulsating effect in the tunnel. And we can take a lot of shortcuts and do a lot of cool things that aren't really possible in the rest of the game because we have this totally enclosed and bespoke play space.
You will not see two-lane traffic inside the jump tunnel itself. In the jump tunnel, you'll see the ships ahead of you, and if you look behind, you'll be able to see ships that are in range behind you, but you won't see traffic going the other direction.
Why do you hate fun?
It's not that I hate fun, it's that I want everybody to have a good experience in this tunnel, and if there's other ships that you can collide with, we want to avoid that kind of situation.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you're basically flying in line. There'll be ships in front and behind, and no oncoming traffic. Again, that makes sense. I think that from a gameplay perspective, that's just gonna work better.
The players' ships, when they're traveling in the tunnel, are going to be in a line. So it's going to be, the term that we use internally is ducks in a row. So one ship behind another ship behind another ship.
There'll be some obstructions in some of the tunnels which you have to dodge around, but for the most part,
And this is very old artwork. This is something that we've seen for a while. There will be obstacles inside of some of these tunnels that you have to avoid. I think that's very cool. Again, it's a little bit more engaging. Something for you to do. It's not just a loading screen.
it's a matter of turning and navigating through the tunnel and not hitting the sides.
Because the closer you are to the edge of the tunnel, the more likely you are to fail your jump.
The edges of those tunnels and those obstructions cause distortion damage to your ship.
There's a pool on your jump drive, and if this pool fills with distortion, then your jump drive will shut down. If your jump drive does shut down, then you're going to fail that jump.
You get booted out of...
Okay. Well, I just paused it. They're probably going to say something, but that's basically what Evocati was experiencing, is that if they were going to the edges, they would fail the jump, and end up in some random place in Pyro.
Of the tunnel, and there's a number of places in the system where you could end up based on like how long you've been in the tunnel. You could end up back in Stanton, or you could be in Pyro, but you're not going to be at where you wanted to be. You're going to be at the edge of the system somewhere and have to find your way back.
Currently, the jumps that we are toying with are about 3 minutes, but this is still open to...
It's not bad. Again, obviously they want to make this an impactful experience. This isn't something that, you just wake up and you're going back and forth between Stanton and Pyro. I feel like it will really, make the event of traversing different star systems feel like you're actually going somewhere. And that's kind of the thing. My problem with some other space games is that you feel a little bit too much like a god. You have too much power, too much speed. You could kind of do a little bit. I want someone to make a space game where things is just, it's really hard. It's not that it just takes a long time, because you don't want to create so much time sinks that it's just kind of a grind, but you want to make things impactful. So there's making things take a long time and still be easy, but then there's making things take a reasonable amount of time but making it difficult or impactful. So when you go through a jump point, you're doing a lot of things. There are a lot of things that you have to consider. Can you defend yourself if there's campers on the other side? Do you have enough fuel? Do you have enough ammo? X, Y, and Z. Things that you have to consider. You're not just wake up one day and decide, oh, I'm going to, do whatever I want in Pyro today. It's like, am I really equipped to take missions and do things in Pyro right now? Might need some more armor, X, Y, and Z. And I think that is going to make it feel more like you're actually going to a place versus like, oh, you've seen a million planets. There's kind of nothing on them to do. There's no gameplay around them. I'm in Microtech doing missions. I could, spend my entire gameplay session in the Microtech planetary system, and then I go to Pyro. I'm in a completely different world. I'm there for weeks, and I come back to Stanton. I'm there for weeks again. It's and I think that really says a lot about Star Citizen's game design, is that we've been in Stanton for years and it doesn't feel small, and that's because there's so much impactful things that you can do. There's so many things that can kill you. Walking down the stairs, you could trip and die. You are powerless in this universe. You're just like an insignificant little ant. And making all of these things that you have to do, all of these hoops that you have to jump through, it makes making decisions more important. It makes making decisions bigger. So you can't just wake up one day and decide that you're going to fly wherever you want. There's a lot of decisions that you have to make beforehand. I think that's really cool. Again, everyone might not agree with me. Some people might want it to be easier and take less time, but I think 3 minutes is reasonable. So let's keep going.
Iteration based on how many ships we want to have in that tunnel, how close they are, and the trip needs to be long enough in order to cover the transition from your origin system to your destination system.
Okay.
When you are arriving via a jump point, you will realize that you aren't actually coming through the same entryway that you would have been passing through to go to the next system. Players will not be able to necessarily camp that point just for you to exit it.
Okay.
The intention is that there will be multiple locations where you will exit to, and so this will mitigate that threat.
Okay, so that's a big worry that a lot of people had, is that especially with the old design where the jump point had this big ring around it, is that you were essentially going through a tube and people would just sit on the other side of that tube and shoot at anybody who comes out just to kind of grief them. So it seems like that's not really going to be the case. And that's what I said in my video. If you guys go back to my video kind of talking about jump points and how they're changing, basically that's the solution that I implemented to kind of solve this problem, is that you would go in through one singular point and you would come out in multiple different points. So someone can't just sit at the entrance of the jump gate and shoot at anybody who comes out, because you could come out down here, you could come out up there, to the right, to the side, and by the time that person turns to shoot at you, you could spool your quantum drive and then jump away again. So I think that that will give players enough time to escape if there is campers. Now, obviously, if there's a huge org kind of, blanketing the whole area in Pyro, you can't really escape that as easily. But if it's a couple of griefers, I think that it is a lot easier to kind of mitigate the camping and griefing that will be done in Pyro from that sense, And again, I think it's a good solution. This is something that, I kind of recommended in my older video. If you guys go back and watch that, I talked about jump points and how they could potentially be changing. And I think that's a good solution.
Kind of a shotgun approach coming out of the jump gate, because we don't want everybody to be slamming right into each other. We want to be able to spread the ships out that are coming through and get your...
Exactly. So I think, again, it's just a good solution.
Your own view of your new setting and where you're at.
So when you come out of the pyro side of the jump gate, you should come out into completely different space than on the...
That looks amazing. I think the developers, the art directors, the graphic people, they're all doing an amazing job. The lightning, the gas clouds, the station, the ambiance, hats off to you guys. Really knocked it out of the park. This looks so cool.
Stanton side, so it's sort of like a cave of gas. But there's also some structures that lead you directly towards the station. You can do anything you like there. It's just a normal R&R station.
Okay, so that's another thing that's good. Something that CIG changed with Pyro is that they added all of these R&R stations, these rough and ready gang stations. So the rough and ready gang, they essentially, they want to be like Rest and Relax, how, Stanton has this brand, this company called Rest and Relax that operate and these stations all around Stanton, and so the Rough Ready gang kind of want to do the similar thing but in Pyro. So they've kind of taken control of all of these derelict stations and they're operating them. So the faction that you're going to want to have good reputation with, presumably, so you don't have any trouble at these locations. But they will give players kind of a way to, you can refuel here, you can do different things, and more than likely there'll be trade here between Pyro and Stanton. So this is going to be very interesting, and I'm excited that they made this change. Again, having a bunch of star systems that have no resources, that are dead star systems, there's no reason to go there. That made sense for the old game design of Star Citizen. But this new game design where everything is more immersive, there's just no way that makes sense. So Pyro has to be more lucrative, has to be more built up. It has to have more reasons for players to visit the star system. It can't just be dead and barren and dry, So as time goes on, we'll probably see more redesign of a lot of these star systems that will, less useful in the old gameplay design, where, you know, the game was less immersive and you didn't have planets and seamlessness and all this stuff. So I think this is another good decision.
That is just nice and safe before you go out into Pyro itself, which is more dangerous, of course.
That's good. I like that.
We've already shown on the tech preview that you can enter a jump gate and come out the other side, and we've got the ability to transfer servers. We've got that working even better than we ever thought we could at the beginning. We want to make the experience of going through the tunnel as seamless as possible. We don't want it to be super hard, but we want it to be engaging.
Yeah.
We're going to save the challenging experience, the super hard acrobatics for the transient gates when we get to them.
We're dialing in the numbers about how many people jump at the same time, distance.
Okay. So yeah, that was one of my questions. How many people? It's like 50 or 5 or whatever. So it looks like they're still figuring that stuff out.
Between ships, precisely the speed at which ships move down the tunnel, things like that. There's a lot of variables involved in balancing it, and there will be far more testing in the tech preview channel for jump points, so you can look forward to helping us figure out there.
Yeah, it's really exciting to be to this point where we're able to deliver this new system of transferring yourself from one star system to another, being able to visit an entirely new star system, and having that experience of going from Stanton to Pyro. It's going to be exciting.
Thanks for watching, and we're all
right, so it looks like that's it about jump points. I think those are some really good updates. What we know is that there are 2 kind of jump points. There is permanent and transient ones. You gotta line up to the jump point. They are naturally occurring. Some of the infrastructure has been removed from them. When you exit the jump point, you're going to exit from different places. There is that kind of safety around the primary jump points, and you know, any size ship can go to the main jump points, and the transient jump points are going to be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more difficult to navigate. They're going to have size restrictions. They're going to be temporary. A lot of really good information. I think it makes sense for the way we play the game now, for the direction that CIG wants for the game in the future. I think this was a great episode of ISC. Honestly, really cool stuff. You know, this was a longer episode. I'm recording for hour. Thank you guys for hanging out with me in this video. I did not expect it to be that long, but I guess I had a lot to say. I only watched 16 minutes. This is a, you know, I don't know, 40-minute video or something like that after I edit it down. But yeah, that's going to be it for me here today, you guys. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think about this? What do you think about these updates? Do you miss the jump gates, big rings around the jump points? Are you excited to try it out for the first time for yourself? I want to hear from you guys. I really like interacting with you guys down in the comments. You guys see I'm replying to everybody, hearting your comments, all that stuff. I like talking to you guys. But that's going to be it for me here in today's video. You guys know what I always say at the end of these videos. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And I will see you guys in the next one. Salute.